to the crisis report. It is December 17th, 2024. And the big question is, who controls Syria? A lot going on today with all of that. There are numerous reports of a buildup and potential entry by Turkey into the northern portion of Syria. Of course, to the west, you have got the Israelis who have secured portions of western Syria for their own needs. And then, of course, there is the other rebel factions. You've got the Iraqi resistance. You've got the remnants of ISIS. You've got the remnants of Al-Qaeda and so many other groups. So the question is, who controls Syria? And that's going to play out in some interesting ways because it is going to cause conflict. And I think right now you're kind of getting through that honeymoon period where the Syrians are finding their way post-Assad. And where it goes from here, well, I think if you believe it's going to get better, you might want to think again. So other things going on, there's a Russian lieutenant general who was killed in a hit by the Ukrainians, and they thought there might be a peace deal in the Middle East, and now it kind of seems things have switched a little bit from that. Your usual back and forth all over the place kind of stuff going on all over the world. So this is your crisis report for December 17th, 2024. I'm starting a little later than I like to. So I'm going to get started and not do the usual 4 minute, but go about 2.5 in. And if you could be so kind as to hit that like button, do the subscribe thing if you are new here, and possibly consider being like Winning Streak and Jeffrey Lindquist and becoming a member to keep what we are doing here, which is basically to give you as much of a comprehensive report on everything going on out in the world as it pertains to conflict and some other things from cultural to banking. This is your crisis report. Explosion in Moscow has killed Russian Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov and his aide. Suspected explosive device was reportedly attached to a scooter parked near the building entrance, detonated as he entered. Head of the Russian Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Defense Forces. He was involved in the development and adoption of the heavy flamethrower called the TOS-2. March 2022, Kirillov infamously claimed that Pentagon Biolabs yada yada to the yada. Now, we don't know the validity of all that, but this has been a big contention. I'm just going to move on from that so it does not sit out loud. I'm not saying I believe or didn't believe. This is what this guy claimed, okay? And now he's gone. U.S. fears Turkey's military buildup near the Syrian border signals an imminent incursion into PKK-YPG terror group held Ain al-Arab, so-called PKK-YPG-PYD. Officials urged President-elect Trump to pressure Turkey and Erdogan. Russia is going to boost its ballistic arsenal with new missiles and testing. Russia is boosting its ballistic arsenal with new strategic missile systems. Plans maximum range launches may increase testing in response to growing external threats, a senior Russian military commander said. In terms of range, there is no place where our missiles cannot reach. Russia's RIA state news agency cited Kharkiv as telling the Krasnaya Zvezda, the Russian Defense Ministry's official newspaper, in an interview. Ukraine's drone systems unit successfully tested the Trezhub combat laser capable of striking aircraft above 2 kilometers, placing Ukraine among the elite nations with operational laser weapons. Trezhub surpasses the U.S. LAWS, which is a 1.6 kilometer, and matches the UK's Dragonfire 55 kilowatt. Israeli defense minister says that after defeating Hamas, we will have security control over Gaza and operational freedom similar to that in Judea and Samaria. At least 100,000 bodies in the Syrian mass grave have been found, according to a U.S. advocacy group. Head of this U.S.-based Syrian advocacy organization on Monday said mass grave outside Damascus contained the bodies of at least 100,000 people, former government of ousted President Bashar al-Assad. Moaz Mustafa said the site at Al-Qutaifa, 25 miles or 40 kilometers north of Syrian capital, is one of the 5 mass graves that have been identified over the years. 100,000 is the most conservative estimate on the number of bodies buried at the site, said Mustafa, head of the Syrian Emergency Task Force. It's a very, very extremely, almost unfairly conservative estimate. Philippine Senate ratifies new defense pact with Japan. Philippines has ratified a new defense pact with Japan that would allow each country's military to deploy on each other's soil amid increased regional tensions with China. The Philippine Senate announced the ratification in a statement on Monday, saying it would enhance the interoperability between Japan and Philippines. Ratifying the agreement further affirms the strategic partnership between the two countries in their mutual goal, which is to enhance contribution to regional and international peace, security, and stability. Ukraine has lost about 50% of the territory it controlled in Kursk, Economist reports. Russia holds a significant advantage in manpower, artillery, and vehicles. German Foreign Ministry. German diplomats held talks today for the first time with the representatives of the transitional government in Damascus. Possibilities of diplomatic presence in Damascus exist. And there was a moment where an IED hit the e-scooter handle and detonated, which killed the Russian Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Defense Force Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov and his aide. Elon Musk has stirred debate by criticizing the F-35 program and questioning the relevance of expensive piloted jets in modern warfare. He compared their obsolescence to mainframes being replaced by personal computers, highlighting the growing role of AI-powered, cost-efficient drones in Ukraine. Next-gen fighter programs like GCAP and FCAS now face questions about piloted aircraft future. Airbus Defense CEO Michael Schulhorn emphasized accelerating drone development. There's an urgent need to bring some capabilities forward to the early 2030s, especially in the drone part. I look forward to a future Terminator-style war where we are taking on automated machines. I jest. Diplomatic outreach of Syria's revolutionary leader Ahmad al-Sharaa. Key meetings. Turkish intelligence chief. Qatari delegation. UN special envoy for Syria. British foreign office. French foreign affairs and German foreign affairs. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen met with Turkish President Erdogan in Ankara to discuss Syria's future, recognizing Turkey's key role as a regional power hosting millions of refugees and influencing rebel groups that ousted Assad. EU officials stated, "This is a political message that we acknowledge Erdogan's influence and want him to see that we can play a role too," according to Financial Times. Russian Security Council Deputy Chairman Medvedev vows inevitable retaliation against Ukraine's military and political leadership for Kirillov's killing. Channel 14 Israel revealed new details about the prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas, release of a dozen of Israeli captives in exchange for 700 to 1,000 Palestinian prisoners, phases, 60-day ceasefire, return of displaced individuals to northern Gaza under a supervised security system, and the agreement will be implemented in synchronized stages to ensure compliance. Ali Mamlouk, former head of Assad's national security, has arrived in Baghdad from Beirut. Sources report he and Maher al-Assad, brother of Assad, are in Mount Kandil, near the Iraqi-Iranian border, holding meetings with the IRGC officers and Hezbollah members. Mamluk, a key Assad regime figure and shadow advisor, is under U.S. and EU sanctions and accused of human rights violations, including 2013 Tripoli mosque bombings and the torture of an American Syrian activist. Imminent military operation by Syrian National Army, or the SNA, on Ain al-Arab. Syrian opposition forces, or the SNA, prepare for an operation in Ain al-Arab. Objective: unite SNA regions Manbij and Tal Abyad and eliminate YPG PKK terror group presence. Syrian prime. See, like I read that, and most people are like, "Oh, whatever, okay, another like little blip of something I don't know." No, this right here is like Fitz gonna hit the Shan in Syria. That's the kind of like post where I read and I'm like, oh. Yeah, we still have a crap load of little groups that want to kill each other. So that's the problem. So they're going to come in and act like they've got control over this stuff, but there's a lot of chaos. And when you've got Turkey and Israel and even America in certain proxy ways moving in to establish themselves, you throw in those other groups. I mean, it's a calm right now, but it's still going to be a mess. Syrian Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir: international community has betrayed the Syrian people, and it's time for them to support our recovery. We demand that the international community lift sanctions and release frozen funds to help Syria recover. We call for the return of displaced Syrians and their involvement in rebuilding the new Syria. Chuck them some money, America. Turkish President Erdogan says Syria needs support from the United Nations and international institutions so that they can rise again. The world did not support the Syrian people when they were being oppressed by the Ba'ath regime. Now is their chance. Again, chuck them some money, America. Injured North Korean soldiers are in the emergency hospital on Pirogov Street in Kursk. Over 100 DPRK troops brought there, given a separate floor, special meals. Khomeini says the belief the U.S., the Zionist regime, and some of their allies that resistance will end is completely wrong. It is Israel that will be uprooted. He had a meeting with women today, and he says, I urge everyone, especially women, to beware of the enemy's subtle methods and not be deceived by slogans and temptations. Germany economy is in free fall. Germany's business sentiment dropped sharply in December, with the IFO Business Climate Index falling to 84.7 from 85.6 in November, which is missing expectations. Their president, Clemens West, called it chronic weakness, reflecting industrial stagnation and uncertainty. Israeli Defense Minister Katz says fortifications and defensive measures must be completed on Mount Hermon for the possibility of a prolonged stay there. Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kabakj: there is no crisis in Georgia. There is a stable parliamentary majority, a stable government, and therefore no political crisis. Trump sues Des Moines Register and its top pollster J.N. Seltzer for brazen election interference and fraud over the 2024 final presidential poll that showed Kamala Harris leading in Iowa, which is utter horse crap, despite his ultimate victory in the state by more than 13 percentage points. Senior U.S. official says Turkey and its militia allies are building up forces along the border with Syria, raising alarm that Ankara is preparing for a large-scale incursion into territory held by American-backed Syrian Kurds. Right there, that's going to be a problem. There's still a problem between Turkey and America and Turkey and Israel and all these other stuff. There's a whole lot of potential here. Zelensky calls on allies to urgently strengthen Ukraine on the battlefield. Donald Tusk says Ukraine has no reason to yield to Russia in any talks. Elon Musk is saying stop using hashtags on X because the system doesn't need them anymore and they look ugly. Israeli army has now penetrated the territory of the Yarmouk Basin area in the southern part of the Daraa government with tanks and bulldozers. That means they now control the Yarmouk River, which is pretty substantial. DRC Health Ministry: unknown disease spreading across country is killing many in severe form of malaria. So, covered this on PrepperNow with the update over there. If you'd like to go check it out, go and do a article from the Sun. But this is the Ponzi region, as it's called, and hundreds are sick and dying. Passage of the U.S. Navy aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman through the Suez Canal. 6 United States Air Force B-52H strategic bombers and a squadron of U.S. Air Force F-15 fighters left the Middle East region following the arrival of the USS Harry Truman Carrier Strike Group. The strike group spotted in the Red Sea on December 17th. Peace talks will begin with when Russia runs out of reserves for war. So there is an incredibly large amount of work ahead, says the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Yermak. Ukraine does not need mediators like Hungary and its Prime Minister Orban. I will not let him in, and people like him, said Zelensky. Turkey wants to occupy large parts of Syria and Iraq to capture Kurdish territory who have belonged to them for thousands of years. And is a new caliphate coming, this guy asks. And that is a good question. Again, Syria is up for grabs. Turkish armed forces have removed the border fence near the city of Kobani ahead of an unexpected ground operation. An expected ground operation in northern Syria. Kobani is a Kurdish stronghold. Manbij and northern Aleppo were also Kurdish strongholds, but already captured by Turk-led SNA. Mobile internet will be switched off in the Russian-held Crimea for regional Ministry of Information reported. Temporary restrictions are being introduced from today to ensure the safety of residents. Excuse me. If Turkey invades and occupies the remaining Kurdish majority regions of Syria, the war will make into Turkey's capital, Ankara, Nikos Mikhailid estimates. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu on the deployment of the Israeli army in Syria. We will remain in the Syrian region at least until the end of 2025 and longer. Netanyahu to senior army officials said this morning at Mount Hermon. Russian naval assets heading towards the Mediterranean, possibly off the shores of Syria. Today, U.S. Navy P-8A Sub Hunter search for a submarine off the northern fleet of the Russian Navy, just as the Russian landing ship Alexander Shabalin passed through the Strait of Gibraltar. Ukraine large-scale air raid alert is currently expanding after the Kiev reported UAV infiltration. Ukraine, strong explosion occurred in Obolon in Kiev, after which an alarm was immediately declared, according to local channels. Currently, residents are experiencing power and water outages, and there are also power surges. Russian assault on the Kiev could have resulted in the destruction of a power plant or a dam in the northern sector of the Ukrainian capital, judging by the map related to the info about water and power outages. Ukraine armed forces preparing for large-scale offensive along the entire front line during the New Year holidays. AFU has reduced its activity along the LOC, stockpiling ammunition and FPV drones to create a barrage along its entire length for launching an attack. Massive interruptions are happening in the Russian UVB-76 military-related radio station, the buzzer, to disrupt military communications. So this is the Russian nuclear war radio system, and a lot of strange things have been going on as of late. Strange messages, they were playing techno, just a lot of strange things going on, and people are wondering, are they trying to send a message of some sorts? It's been hacked by other people. It's kind of creepy. It's called the buzzer. Luigi Mangione has been indicted for the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Bombshell resignation of Canada's Deputy Prime Minister is spurring new calls for the resignation of Justin Trudeau, whose rock-bottom popularity is plummeting further following opposition attacks and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's tariff threat. Nobody likes Justin Trudeau. Canada is reportedly deploying what it calls an aerial intelligence task force as part of a new $908 million plan to address U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's concerns about migrants and fentanyl flowing across the northern border. SNA massing troops on Kirkuk line. Ceasefire is dead as Turkey rejects the SDF's Suleiman Shah proposal. Heavy buildups east and west of Kobani. U.S. forces are still in the city of Kobani. In the south of Dakhra, Quneitra provinces, Israeli tanks have crossed the buffer zone and cut off the road between the villages of Ma'alka and Saida. Israeli forces have also entered the villages of Jamla and Mahraba. Israeli invasion of Syria, December 17, 2024. Israeli troops have so far created what they are calling the security zone beyond the buffer zone. This new security zone beyond this buffer zone is roughly 246 square kilometers, and with the buffer zone is roughly 505 square kilometers. Areas in sky blue are within the buffer zone, likely under Israeli control. Areas in dark are under Israeli control and are outside the buffer zone. Red lines are the Alpha Bravo lines of the buffer zone. Author for the Washington, D.C. think tank Middle East Forum, Michael Rubin, says that the United States needs to prepare to kill Turks in Syria. Turkey's actions already across the Rubicon and place American forces and interests in jeopardy. Celebrations that ended the more than a half-century of Assad family tyranny in Syria are over. In the short term, Russia and Iran are losers. Turkey is the winner. After all, Turkey was the prime backer of the Hayat al-Tahrir al-Sham rebel group swept through Syria. Wall Street Journal, Trump team weighs options, including airstrikes to stop Iran's nuclear program. Advisors to President-elect concerned economic pressure isn't enough to contain Tehran. Consider military action. According to them, December 13th, 2024, President-elect Donald Trump is weighing options for stopping Iran from being able to build nuclear weapons, including the possibility of preventative strikes, a move that would break with the long-standing policy of containing Tehran in diplomacy and sanctions. Keir Starmer has been branded a dictator as he delays 2025 local elections. Labour is delaying some elections in a supposed bid to stop Reform UK's momentum. Nigel Farage has torn into Prime Minister Keir Starmer after it emerged this morning some crucial local elections will not be held next year. Mr. Farage blasted that the two old parties' century-long stranglehold on Britain politics is breaking and they are terrified. Their day of reckoning is fast approaching, he said. Reform had been hungrily preparing for the next major electoral test. However, local government reforms now mean they may not take place until 2027. Jim McMahon, a senior local government minister, said councils that are being emerged or abolished could hold off elections until the reforms are complete. Russia has banned the Church of Scientology, labeling it an extremist, accusing it of inciting hatred, promoting enmity, and other nastiness. Police in Aurora, Colorado have detained 14 individuals in an apartment complex reportedly taken over by the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, following a series of violent home invasions where victims were tied and then worse things happened. A man was sentenced for running a business that helped pregnant Chinese women travel to Southern California to deliver their babies and become American citizens. Shock poll reveals 4 out of 10 young voters would like to see healthcare CEOs unalived. North Korean forces have suffered several hundred casualties fighting against Ukrainian troops in Russia's Kursk region, senior U.S. military officials said on Tuesday. Spy drones from China are likely the cause of the unexplained aircraft wreaking havoc over U.S. House Foreign Affairs chair says bombshell claim, according to the New York Post. Defense Department is not behind the mysterious drone sightings in the U.S. Northeast, Pentagon officials said. Okay, we're good. U.S. Department of Defense says the mysterious drone flights are either operated by the Pentagon or part of any secret government tests. Okay. New Jersey Mayor Michael Mellum says radioactive material in New Jersey went missing on December 2nd. Since the fall of Bashar al-Assad's government, the Israeli army has occupied 435 square kilometers of Syrian territory, including 2 strategic areas. United States officials, again, are blaming China for the drones flying all over the country. Spy drones from China are likely caused by unexplained aircraft wreaking havoc over U.S. House Foreign Affairs chair says, New York Post reports. Shooter of the Abundant Life Christian School, Madison, Wisconsin, identified as 15-year-old Natalie Lynn Samantha Rupnow by police. She killed another student, a teacher, and injured 7 in an attack on December 16th before she turned the gun on herself. Israel's Defense Minister Katz, my position on Gaza is clear. After we defeat Hamas, military and government power in Gaza, Israel will have security control over Gaza with full freedom of action, just like in Judea and Samaria. We will not allow any terrorist organization against Israeli communities and Israeli citizens from Gaza. We will not allow a return to the reality of before October 7th. Israel is preparing for a very large attack on the Iranian proxy in Iraq. All pro-Iranian militia leaders are now hiding under the ground. More about this in Amir Sarfati's mini update, 6 p.m. Israeli time. It's already come and gone. Reports that a building collapsed on Israeli soldiers in a security incident in Rafah, Gaza yesterday, resulting in 2 deaths. France's credit rating has been downgraded to AA3 by Moody's with a deficit of 6.1%, which is double the limit set by the European Union. Country also faces a public debt of $3.2 trillion and a debt-to-GDP ratio of 112%, twice that of Israel during its recent conflict. Consequently, the yields on French government bonds have risen above 3% and continue to increase, indicating that investors require higher yields to be enticed into buying them. Netanyahu has reportedly flown on a plane to the island of Crete. That is not true. So we have given, Hamas says we have given up on the demand for complete end to the war and the IDF withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. They insist the Palestinians be able to return to the northern Gaza Strip. None of that has gone through. Hamas official statement says in light of the serious and positive discussions, it is possible to reach a ceasefire and prisoner exchange if Israel stops setting new conditions. Well, the mystery is solved on where Netanyahu is flying today. He didn't visit Crete or Cairo. He visited Syria. Israel and Saudi Arabia have reached a breakthrough in their normalization negotiations, according to Haaretz. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, is no longer insisting on a clear timetable for establishing a Palestinian state and is instead willing to accept a more general, vague commitment. Axios says that there are still major gaps between Israel and Hamas in Gaza deal talks. Erdogan is following in the footsteps of Saddam Hussein. Just let him remember what happened there and how it ended, said Israel's defense minister. Reporters emerged of the IDF storming the Street 24 Nablus in the West Bank, according to Palestine. Breaking, Justin Trudeau has canceled his traditional year-end interviews for 2024, sparking speculation that his resignation may be imminent. New York Governor Kathy Hochul calls for the abolition of the Electoral College. It's time to amend the Constitution and relegate the institution of the Electoral College to the history books. Oh my God, she's not one of my favorites. I explained it the other night why the Electoral College is so important. It means Wyoming, New Mexico, West Virginia, and all those states, which is about 20 of them, that get flown over, have a voice in our government. Islamic State is planning a mass prison break to free thousands of fighters detained in Syria, according to Iraqi officials. Wonderful. State Department claims U.S. has no role in Moscow terrorist attack that killed General Kirillov. And were they publicly accused? No. It is not very clear why the Americans start making excuses after every attack in Russia. After the horrific tragedy of Crocus, the Americans were the first to declare that it was definitely not them. Although at the same time, they were clearly not the first in line for public and political condemnation. So as it says here, Well, look at that, folks. That's your prices report for December 17th, 2024. If you like what we're doing here, you come here, you put your name in, you hit subscribe, put your email in, and you will get wonderful things out. We do this 6-7 times a week, usually about 10:30 to 11 o'clock on the weekdays. And if you want to be like the cool kids, like Winning Streak, and get a membership, it is much appreciated. This stuff does not just randomly show up. It is curated over a while during the day. Also, you can join us on Gab, Minds, Twitter, and Truth Social. Or if you're really feeling rich, subscribe star on Locals. They are $3, and they are worth it, because I put all kinds of cray-cray out there. So, that, my friends, is your crisis report. Got 105 here and 49 like-a-roonies. If I could get you guys could hit that like button and all that, just tap out, hit it, quit it, then go to bed or do whatever the heck it is you're doing. Okay? Promise. Pinky swear. Pinky swear. God bless. Friends, keep prepping, keep doing the things, and we will see you on the next one. PrepperNow out.